Welcome to the Board Game Snobs podcast. Critically harsh reviews with a touch of class.
Go.
And welcome to the Board Game Snobs. Well, it's not our real podcast. This is our Make Do podcast, our social isolation podcast. I am not at BGS Studios number 1. I'm at BGS Studios number 2, the Northern Studios, at my house.
The satellite portion.
I feel like I'm a reporter.
BGS satellite, embedded in Antlers, Oklahoma.
Embedded, yes. I'm in the trenches.
Are you in bed while you're embedded?
I don't think you necessarily have to be in bed to be embedded, because you can be embedded. Anything can be a bed.
He's embedded. He's always asleep, though.
A terrible reporter. Either ways, this is a podcast that's probably about board games, maybe not, and we are doing our due diligence not to be touching each other or being around each other. That sounded weird.
You're not even looking at me, and that makes me sad. You don't have a camera.
The star.
This is Gabi, the primary host, the rock upon which this was built. The foundation stone.
The cornerstone.
The cornerstone.
Is that the stone that the mortician owns?
What?
Get it? The coroner? The cornerstone? The mortician? I'm on fire.
Where's my laugh track when I need it?
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed your solo podcast where your 12 minutes of macaroni and cheese. I enjoyed that. That was great.
I had to cut that short. I had a lot to say.
Oh, yeah. Well, do you have quality banter? I don't know if you come up with banter while I'm there, or is that something that you have to mine for? Have you dug up banter?
Dug it up? I'm always about bantering. Did you know that from 1799? Now, this is I'm getting these facts from a tweeter called Quite Interesting Facts. So whether or not they're true, but I want to say that they are, because he says random stuff, or whoever. I say he, she, whoever it is, they say random stuff. It could or could not be true. It sounds true, but apparently, see, now this guy, I just pulled up and somebody's like saying, that's not true. So I don't know if I read this or not, but I'm going to read it anyway.
Read the fake news. We don't care.
It says from 1793 to 1806, rum was Australia's main currency.
That sounds like I don't know. I think Bruno and several of our Australia listeners could probably let us know if that's true or not. I've always thought Australia's main export was Crocodile Dundee and Outback Steakhouse.
And Men at Work, come from the land down under.
And death. They export death. That's just that's a dangerous place.
Jellyfish.
There's a dangerous
where all the jellyfish, snakes, scorpions.
So speaking of jellyfish, that reminds me of...
You remind me.
I have never seen a jellyfish, but once in Florida. I don't like beaches. I avoid beaches, but I was visiting my sister.
Sad movie, by the way.
And next thing I know, she's discussing the dangers of what's ahead of us on the beach. And it was something called a man of war.
Sounds like an Avenger.
Yes. Is there an Avenger called the Man of War?
I am a man of war.
It's not
That's Captain America.
Man of war. It's a man o' war.
Well, isn't the apostrophe just take the place of the F?
I don't know. But it was
like
basically...
a cup o' coffee? Does that make it different?
I looked into it, and it was called a Portuguese man of war. Oh. And they're this weird-looking, demonic...
got horns on it?
Jellyfish that comes out on land. And it sits on land. And if you touch it and it stings you, you want to die, is what was told to me. And it was.
Well, they are deadly, right? Did you pee on yourself?
They have a. I don't think they're deadly to people. Of course, if you're allergic to it, but they are supposedly very, very painful.
Man of war jellyfish. That's like the biggest one, right?
Yeah, it's actually called the Portuguese man of war.
Oh, why is it Portuguese?
I think it it comes from Portugal. It has its own. It
own
has
dialect.
its own. I don't know. Maybe it likes it likes the ocean, and so it's seafaring. And
it comes from Rio.
So listen to this.
Oh wait,
though.
or Portugal, because Brazil speaks Portuguese and Portugal speaks Portuguese, right?
Yeah. So the tentacles that it has that can get you when it's floating above on the water, its tentacles can grow up to an average of 30 feet and may extend to as much as 100 feet.
No.
So this thing can this thing can reach out from 100 feet and it can sting you weeks after it has been washed ashore. So this thing is just laying on the beach sunning for like several weeks, and all of a sudden a 100-foot-long tentacle just grabs you.
Oh my God, that's disturbing.
Well,
that's
I'm
like,
just saying.
That's like from a horror movie.
I know. They're good. I like them. But anyways, so that jellyfish, that made me think of the Man of War, and I didn't even know that animal existed until a few years back. Very interesting to see.
Wasn't there a horse named Man of War that like won
That's Warhorse.
the Indy 500? Whatever it's called.
I thought you was talking about the show, the Warhorse show.
Maybe it is
Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, there was a horse. Like it's one of the few horses that won the Triple Crown. Man of War.
You're
Maybe
thinking
he was
the
a jellyfish.
Secretariat.
No, Seabiscuit. Air
Secretariat. Secretariat is my favorite horse show, by the way.
Wait.
If you've not seen
Secretariat. Now, are you thinking Secretariat or Seabiscuit?
No, Secretariat.
Well, you're wrong, because it's Seabiscuit. That's
No,
the best
it's
horse
not.
show.
Have you seen Secretariat?
Top 3 best horse shows. Go.
Secretariat.
No, I've never have seen Secretariat.
Secretariat. Well, then you need to shut up because
apparently you've never
Secretariat
seen
will bring you to tears.
The Black Stallion Returns. Thank you.
No, the man from Snowy River.
Oh, Man from Snowy River or Man from Snowy River Returns?
No, Man from Snowy River. My wife will watch that and cry. It's just this. I had never. That's another great Australian film. That's a great Australian film.
Yes,
this guy riding a horse.
We have a new. Well, I don't know if he's new. We have another Australian listener that's been messaging us on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'm somewhat concerned. This whole virus thing has kind of put a lot of things on hold, and so the fires in Australia are those out? Are we good with that?
Good question. I don't know.
That was kind of like we go from one disaster to the next.
They're putting out a different kind of fire now, I guess.
I'm just worried about the fires.
Michael Langford, he's following us on, and I clicked on his profile, and he's another Australian listener.
He answered a question that I've often had about people. If they do what I do when I find a podcast I like, do you go back to the beginning and listen? Do you listen to the old podcasts? And yeah, I've noticed that there are several downloads of older episodes, and so I must assume that people are going back listening to our old crappy episodes as opposed to our new crappy episodes.
What's the difference?
Well, I think our sound got better in the newer ones.
Yeah, thanks to microphones and not a singular lapel mic that we had mounted up on a microphone stand.
Our audio quality increased and our alcohol consumption increased. And it was all just that graph that it's like, okay, the quality of the show.
They ran parallel to each other on the way to the top.
There you go.
But back to your horse movies. See, Seabiscuit's the one with Tobey Maguire. And
okay, fun. Oh, go ahead.
And I will give you purely the single reason. It is a good movie, but it's kind of, it's kind of just normal drama, sad. But the end of it, that last race where Georgie pulls back and lets Seabiscuit see his horse out of the corner of his eye, it gets me choked up even now talking about it. And he's like, because Seabiscuit needed motivation. And so, like, anytime Seabiscuit saw a horse out of the corner of his eye, like, he wanted to beat him. And so he was, like, way in the back. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
He was, like, running in the last. And it was his last race. So Georgie, his best friend, Tobey Maguire's best friend, I don't even know the guy's name. What was it? Red? His name was Red. I don't know why I remember that. Anyway, Seabiscuit's rider, Tobey Maguire's name was Red. Well, he was good friends with Georgie on this other horse. Well, Seabiscuit was way in the back. He was losing badly. Of course, I'm sure this is all fictionalized for the movie, but it was really good. So Georgie, he sees him way back there. He's, oh no. So he purposely is going to lose the race so that Seabiscuit can see the horse he's riding. And he says something like, go get him or something. And the music soars and Seabiscuit races to the front. Oh my God, it was amazing. I'm sure they shot him and made him glue 3 years later, but it was really good.
Well, Tobey Maguire is one of the weirdest actors because he always looks like he just woke up. It looks like he took too much Trazodone the night before, kind of just got out of bed. His eyes are half open, and he kind of has that look of where am I? Can you name your top 5 Tobey Maguire movies that aren't Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3? Can you even name a Tobey Maguire movie besides Seabiscuit and Spider-Man?
No, not off the top of my head. I'm sure. I'm sure he is. Can you?
Yes, I can. He was in one of my favorite shows, mainly because there was a time in my life where I was obsessed with chess or chest, as I often mispronounce it. And Tobey Maguire played Bobby Fischer. It's been several years ago. He played Bobby Fischer when he played Boris Spassky, the
Did he have
Russian
a Russian
chess
accent?
champion. Yeah. No. Bobby Fischer is Bobby Fischer's Tobey Maguire. The Soviet
okay.
Boris Spassky was that one weird B actor guy who's really good. But back in the 70s,
was it Sean Connery? I'm Boris Spassky.
No, it was that dude that I could picture him.
I like how Sean Connery's accent was like everything. It was just like this universal accent: Russian, English, Irish.
He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. But Pawn Sacrifice is the name of the show, and Tobey Maguire puts it on. He acts in this. He does it, and nobody watched it.
Well, I always felt he was a decent actor, even in the Spider-Man movies. Even though he cries a lot. Well,
he does crying good. He cries better than Will Smith.
Crier.
Will Smith can't cry with Will Smith. Yeah.
No, he cries. He just does the single tear while he's gritting his jowls in a stern-faced manner, pretending like he's trying not to cry.
Grit Jowls. That would be a good band name.
Gritted Jowls.
Gritted Jowls. All right. Are you done with your banter? Oh, and Cedar House Rules. Cedar House Rules. If you're from the 90s, you watch Cedar House Rules.
Cider House Rules.
Did I say Cedar House Rules?
I
meant Cider House Rules. Cedar is a tree. Cider is a delicious drink.
Pine Tree House Rules. That's the movie with Ethan Hawke. I think no. Take me. All I know is my mom got me that book for me and my wife's, I almost want to say 1 year anniversary, because that's your paper anniversary. And she randomly picks up this book from me, the most random. I'm like, I wanted to say, Mom, do you even know me? I'm a sci-fi guy. I'm not going to read Cider House Rules, which all I know is it was drama and sadness and suffering, right?
Yeah, I just remember the trailer with Michael Caine, because I love Michael Caine, because if you say his name right, it sounds like you're saying my cocaine.
Yes,
and that the trailer is he says, "Good night, you princes of Maine, you kings of New England," or something like that. It's there's all these quotes from that show. And unfortunately, it's one of those books that I keep saying I'm going to read, and I never read. But yeah, that was a killer movie.
Never watched it. Looked too depressing.
Well, now since you're isolated from me, you should take the time.
I watched last night, speaking of isolation, the things you have to watch. Gina found some list of movies that are available, and for some reason, First Wives Club was on it.
Oh.
With Diane Keaton, Bette Midler, and Goldie Hawn.
Do you watch it?
Yes.
Oh.
I watched the whole thing.
Oh,
and, you know, it's almost like I can get invested in any movie if you force me to watch at least 30 minutes of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then I was like, how are they going to get revenge on their husbands? I was engaged.
before I move on, I must say this. Often our listeners have figured out from my accent and me mentioning that I'm from Oklahoma. Right now, like the most popular documentary on Netflix is that Tiger King. Quit sending me Tiger King memes. All right, I'm not gonna watch that documentary. I was born in Wynnewood, Oklahoma.
Well, if you would shave your mullet, it would take a lot of that out.
I lost that mullet. I know that Joe Exotic Zoo and all that. I know all about that. I was raised around that. I was there for that. Yes, I don't want to mess with that. Like, everybody keeps watching this documentary and talking about it. It's like, oh, Joe Exotic, this is crazy. And it's
I haven't seen it, so I didn't know it was in your neck of the woods.
Oh, I was born on that bridge that they show, that they drive across. That Joe Exotic Arbuckle Wilderness type area from Davis, Oklahoma, and Sulphur, Oklahoma, all that. I was born in Wynnewood. That's where my grandmother lived up to a few years before he died. All my aunts, all my uncles. That is a crazy town, and Tiger King is the most damaging movie to the Oklahoma. It's like it's going to turn Oklahoma into the new Florida. It's like it's going to shift. Yes. It's going to become Oklahoma Man, and I don't want that. And so, yes.
Too late. You are one.
I know, but Tiger King just puts us all in a bad light.
I want to see it, but I don't know what it's all about. I know it's about craziness, like people owning tigers and basically... You know how you often talk about snake people? Like, you own a snake, yes. You're a certain kind of person if you own reptiles. Apparently, you're a certain type of person if you own tigers.
We had a local exotic animal owner whose house caught on fire several years ago. And I remember when we were on the fire department, and my old captain at the time spoke about how during the fire they were trying to rescue these animals, and they were mainly cats, but there was one, I don't know if it was an orangutan. He just kept saying monkey, but it wasn't a monkey. It was another species of it that he couldn't get the cage unhooked and he couldn't get the monkey out of the cage, and he couldn't carry the cage. So at some point in time, he decided to try to contain said monkey. The monkey got violent, obviously, because the garage for which it was connected to was on fire, and he turned the hose on the monkey.
Oh, gosh.
And watered down the monkey till the monkey calmed down, and then subdued the monkey in some sort of bag and saved the monkey. And years later, I remember the fire...
That was the battle cry of Southeast Oklahoma. Save the monkey!
The fire chief used to always make fun of him because later the guy who owned the place was talking about, thank you for saving my animals. And every time the monkey would see my captain, it would freak out. It knew that was him. That's the guy. I think it was an orangutan.
If only he had saved like a donkey instead.
Why?
Then he could say, "You saved."
I get it. I swear. What? This lowbrow humor you have.
It's all I've got.
Go on. What are we going to talk about? Caylus?
Oh, yeah. We played Caylus at Cabin Con. We have yet to discuss it.
So, like, Caylus has been on my wish list for a long time because there was a certain YouTube reviewer who, like, declared it his favorite game. And so I've always was out to obtain it. And then Caylus 1303 come out, and I'm like, oh, we have to have this. We must play this. And you tell them about it, Gobby. You tell them about it.
What do you want me? So, Mike bought the revised edition, Caylus 1303, that came out whenever, 2019, apparently. It plays 2 to 5 players. I wouldn't recommend it at 5, just like most of these games. Somewhere in the middle. We prefer our player count, our favorite player count here at BGS is 3 player. And not just because we're partial to me, Jerry, and Enrique, but because you get... it's not 2 player, so it's not just me against one person. So you have that third person to throw a wrench in things, but it's also just faster. I'm not waiting for several minutes for it to get back to my turn. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what are you doing? Like, you don't usually ever let me just talk, but whatever. So, Caylus
I'm trying something new. Trying something new.
I don't know why you're going to change things up now. So it says it's one of the first worker placement games. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but that's what Board Game Geek says, and it is the Bible, basically. So Caylus has this worker placement system of where you start at the bottom, and it gives you some of the good Lord, the locations you go to are imprinted in the board, especially like the first 4 or 5. I don't have the board in front of me, and you're going to build these buildings as you go up this track. It reminded me a lot of that Toledo, is that right? Where you're making the swords?
I think it was Toledo.
So you're like doing this wind-about system up to the castle, and you're supposed to like help the king build his castle or something. So along the way, you're going to build these buildings. Well, on the beginning buildings, you can go there and purchase them. I don't know the, good Lord, words. You flip them over and you can own it. And when you flip it over, you're only allowed a certain amount of meeples each turn, like 4, 3, depending on player count. But if you go here and you purchase this build, you can flip it over at the end of the turn. So it will do away with whatever that building did previously. Like it may have given you wood or gold or whatever previously, but now you flip it over and it will allow you to get another meeple into your hand. So that's good, because the more meeples, the more things you can do, especially towards the end game where if you turn in so many meeples, it basically gives you victory points. It gives you gold, and gold is very important in game. So it has a nice ramp up system. It's like you start off with these lower level buildings that you can build, and you can't build the next level building without building the lower level buildings. Is that right?
I think that's right.
No,
because you have the certain
you can skip over yourself. Yeah, but the way it does it is it starts you off. It makes you build these lower levels first. I think you can skip up to the next one. You just have to go to the build first. Bronze or wood, whatever it's called, a wood building. Then you can build silver buildings, and then you can build the gold buildings or the monuments. So it's got a nice system there. It is very kind of cutthroat. That little provost, you can mess people around with that.
I want to talk about the provost,
okay,
which is like the thing of the game.
The man on the horse.
Hook of it. The hook of it is you follow this path to place your workers, and anybody behind the provost on this path, they activate. Anybody ahead of him, he has deemed they're just not going to do their thing. And so there's a spot on the board to where it allows you to manipulate the provost to move him forward or backwards, and it's an opportunity to screw over other people. And that was always the hook that I kept hearing people talk about was, it's so cutthroat, the provost this, the provost that. I found that in this game that if the players don't use the provost, if they're not actively trying to be cutthroat, then the game just turns into this very I did my thing, you did your thing. It's like the violence of the game, the take that aspect, it depends on the players to utilize the provost.
There's no violence in this game.
It is violence. You don't think that provost is violence? You know what a provost is?
What is he? Has he got a gun? Has he got a saber?
He's the head of the cathedral, if I'm not mistaken, in that time. So basically, this guy...
creating violence?
Well, yeah, because he gets violent. He rides along the path.
He's got a bad temper.
If you don't, you're not working today. You're not going to do your thing, or we're going to excommunicate you. Oh. And then just rides along and says, "No, there will be no wood for you," says the church. The Pope says you cannot build this building here. I don't know what the provost is supposed to be doing, but he basically moves around, and you can somehow manipulate him to go backwards or forwards, and then he messes everybody
Bribes.
up.
Everybody was crooked back then, probably.
You got to bribe. You got to
give you 3 loaves of bread.
That bag of money. I like in every medieval show. What's that joke that comedian had? He said that every medieval show, there's just that bag of money with coins in it. And whatever it's like nobody ever counts it. Nobody ever asks. They just throw the bag of money.
That's all you need.
Like, here.
And some of them will look surprisingly small. I'm like, really? That's all you're going to take?
Wouldn't you be sad if you went out and doing the dirty work of somebody, and then you get home and you open the sack of money that they gave you, and it's like $1.50. It's like, this is not what I expected.
I guess $1.50 though in 1391 was quite a bit.
With inflation, that's like $13,000. But Caylus, your overall opinion of Caylus? A mediocre grunt.
Yes.
It was not. It felt like an old game. It felt like an old game.
Yeah. It can be played a couple of different ways, like you said. You can have the people that are aggressive, they're moving the provost, and especially if you use the... well, you kind of negated this actually for me, because we played one game without the character cards, and we played one game with them. The game we played with them... Playing without them is just a standard worker placement game, like anything. You're collecting things to build things and collect points. There's really nothing. Of course, again, it is an old game. It's an old game. So I guess there's no problem with that. It's one of the OGs. But the character cards give you these abilities, and you can steal them from each other. Jerry and Enrique were playing for the first time, and I had everyone's character card, and no one took them from me. So I had all these benefits, and I won the game because I had all these benefits. I think if you had kind of understood, I need to get that back from him, and there was this tug of war. But at the same time, that's kind of one of my issues with it when I played with Mike, because we played that way. We were constantly back and forth these character cards, and it's like you spend kind of half your time of the game just fighting over character cards, and that to me took away from the game. But just the basic game, though, is not that exciting without that. So I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it. I could not ever play it again.
Yeah, it was one of those that I was expecting. I expect two things from a game which is declared to be a classic, like kind of that Stone Age feel. Like when I play it and I go, "This is a great game." Back in its time, it was probably amazing. It's been killed off in many ways, but it's still a good game. Like I could still play Stone Age. I enjoyed it. I love the certain aspects of it, but I see its age. Or it's a classic game that's it's undying. It's been around for a long time. Few games do what it does, and you can play it and go, yes, this is a solid game. This is something that's really, and I was looking for that with Caylus. I wanted to see what was the greatness of it, and I enjoyed it. It was okay, but after we played it several times, I was sitting there thinking that there's so many other games that do what this does better and is tighter. Like the scoring is tighter, which is a big deal to me, because yes, you can easily, if everybody's not paying attention and everybody in the game is not doing their thing, then one player can run away with it. It has all the bugs that have been worked out of board gaming that are found commonly in old games. It's kind of like with Catan. It's like if you know you're playing against a good player, just don't trade with them. Yeah. If everybody at the table says we're not going to trade with this guy, then that's it.
They're screwed.
And they're screwed. And Caylus, if one person is not out there
for their sheep.
Yeah, if one person is not out there stealing those worker cards and being violent, then he's king making somebody. And I just found the game to be, it was fine. I played it. I thought this was nice. If I never play it again, I'll be just fine.
It was very pedestrian.
Yeah, and I just didn't. I could see why this would be someone's number one game 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I could see this being a game that if I had played this back in the day, this would have been, wow, this blew me away. It reminded me a lot of Francis Drake. If you remember that Seafaring game.
Yeah.
The big chunky box. I love Francis Drake.
I would play Francis Drake over this.
Oh, yeah. Francis Drake, even though I sold the game, I regretted it later just because it was one of those games that came out super popular, went out of print, nobody could find it. I got a copy of it. We played it, and then it was just one of those. It was hard to get to the table. It was interesting because you had that track of, all right, go along this track, place your worker. You can't go backwards. Get your supplies. Okay, now use that supplies to send your ships out to here. Kind of a blind bidding aspect to it of, oh, am I sending my ships here? Oh, I don't know. I might be sending them over here. And everybody does their thing.
That was the good thing about this game that I thought was interesting, was that you can mess yourself up if you don't plan correctly. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to think about it, but like if you're going to build a building, well, the actions are resolved in this particular manner, starting from the bottom of the road and, winding up. So you can't pick and choose what you want to do. So if you go up here to build your house, but you haven't collected your, things first, well, then you're going to be messed up. So your worker just stays there until the next round. It doesn't really affect you a whole lot. You lose a worker, but you just need to be sure and get your stuff, do things in the proper order. That was kind of unique to it, I guess, maybe back in the day.
Back in the day. But it was just I didn't like that one thing where you go to where they're building the castle and you can dump off all these certain resources.
Construction site. Yeah, I was going to say that.
That blew me. That was really irritating. It was, if one person can go here and make these offerings, it was like this weird way of scoring that's up here at the top of the board. If you go here, you can do this and you can make this many victory points. And if you're not doing it, you're out of luck.
Unless you have a certain... So with the character cards, there's like 2 cards that negate 2 different factors of that. One, you don't have to place a worker. And another one, if you don't have the character card, then you have to play like at least a chicken leg or whatever the pink product is. We kept calling them chicken legs. You had to play one of those and then in conjunction with 2 different items, I think, something like that. So it had specific things you had to do, but with this character card, you could just give 3 of whatever. They could be the same, they could be different, whatever. I had 2 character cards. One, I could go there without having a worker, so even if somebody went there ahead of me, I could still go there basically twice. And then I could play anything. So like the last few rounds of the game after these big buildings have been built where, you get like 4 or 5 different items at once, I was just dumping everything into that construction site and racking up huge points. While Jerry's working his butt off to build a 25-point monument, and I still beat him by 20 points.
Yeah, so it's like that was very irritating that you happen to haul resources to this one spot. I've built all these buildings, I've built this monument, and it's like, oh man, I'm getting blown away because I wasn't focused on moving the provost back and trying to screw you over, which sometimes it screws you over too if you move him around. And I wasn't taking stuff it's just one of those games that I like to have multiple ways of scoring, but I like for both of those ways to be both evident and viable for winning. And I really felt like that going to the construction site was probably the way to go. Like that's the key. I may be completely wrong on that, but yeah, Caylus was okay, but it was just okay. I'm not seeing a lot of people posting about it. I see a lot of the old time Caylus players are buying it, and they're saying that this version is better than the old version, but it's still okay. It's just
I think
okay.
the old version required you to have money, and basically your money in this one is your meeples. I believe that's what Mike said. I don't know. I think that's something he said, but. Apparently this one is a little bit more streamlined. But yeah, I mean, I'll play it. Like Mike really likes it. I'll play it if he wants to play it. But other than that, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it's not. It wouldn't. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Caylus. It's okay. I was going to make a joke there, and I couldn't
endorsement.
Do it. Well, this is our first podcast from isolation. I think this went well. This went very well.
Did it?
It did.
I think it's good. It's not too bad. Old Google Hangout. I don't know how everybody else does it, but we did Google Hangout when we did sporadic board. I'm like, that's pretty easy to operate. So let's try it out. And I rigged up my machine, got wires everywhere, but I think I got it working.
I think the worst part is that it's 10:30 in the morning here, and I can't bring myself to drink whiskey at 10:30.
Oh, you're not? Oh.
No, I can't. I can't bring myself to it.
Let me put this down there.
I get the kids asking me, "Daddy, what's wrong?" No, I need.
Dinger, yeah. Jason Dinger posted some meme yesterday. I don't know what it was. It shows this frog looking in a mirror. And it says, "Me drunk at home alone by 10 a.m. on day 9 of quarantine." And it's a frog looking in this mirror saying, "You're a star, baby."
Anyways. Yeah, it's a great thing. But yeah, this quarantine has got me. It's got me missing everything. But we're not as bad as everybody else. Everybody else is having a pretty hard time in our other areas. So
there is a benefit to living in the sticks sometimes.
Yes, social distancing is the norm.
It'll get here eventually. And everybody be freaking out because nobody knows how to do anything around here.
Well, that's you in Paris, Texas. Us Oklahomans are fine. We've got our tigers. I can always. As soon as things get bad, as soon as they shut down the dollar store, I'm gonna get my.
You're gonna ride a tiger up in there.
I got my tiger. I got my falcon, my hunting falcon. I'll release to bring back small birds that I can cook. And my hunting tiger, I'll send it out to bring back deer. I'll be all right. It won't keep me down. I will not be ruined financially by this. I've got my tigers.
I can see you like riding a tiger around, lassoing ostriches and emus that people have in their backyards to eating them.
I am not proud to say this, but I have eaten an emu. I have in growing up purchased.
Is that an electronic mew?
No, it is a bird. It is a small ostrich. But we bought an emu at a chicken sale at an auction in Wapanucka, Oklahoma.
Did they not know what a chicken looks like? They bought an emu.
Yeah, well, no. The guy brought a bunch of he brought a bunch of emus because the emu business fell out. Like they used to be very valuable, so they shipped them in from Australia.
These big chickens ain't moving like I thought they would.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want a 5-foot bird that kicks you right in the shins and almost kill you? But the Great Emu War of the 30s that was fought back in Australia. If you don't know about the Emu War of 1932, you've got to look it up. It happened in Australia, and it's amazing.
When they were using rum as their currency, riding emus around.
Just Google Emu War. Just go to YouTube and type in Emu War, and it's an amazing thing to listen and to watch, and how these birds became invasive.
Jousting.
And for some reason,
was there jousting on the emus?
Well, that's where you got that old Atari game Joust. That was based on the Australian Emu War, wasn't it?
Oh, joust me over here.
So for some reason in Oklahoma back in the 90s, they thought it was wise. Let's bring this invasive bird to our area. And they did, and everybody had them, and were raising them. And when the market fell out, everybody just turned them loose into the wild.
So what was the thinking? Are they thinking like food or feathers? Why would you have an emu?
The emu oil, like I know a lot. Well, one, the meat, and I think the emu oil became a thing. There are a lot of people who thought it had medicinal properties, and so everybody had emu oil and emu oil products, and they still do today. But they released them out in the wild in Oklahoma, and fortunately, we have predators here to some degree, like coyotes and things of that nature that didn't let them get out of hand. But many people brought their emus to chicken sales, and my dad bought two.
An emu in the hand is better than two in the bush.
It is. Well, my dad's bought 2 full-grown emus for $5 back in '97, I think. And next thing I know, I just remember my dad going out in the yard and having a fight with an emu because they kick. And next thing I know, he comes out with an axe and says, "Yeah, we're done with these."
That's where that phrase comes from. Australia. They're like, an emu in the hand's worth 2 in the bush. Then they go out in the bush and start jousting with them.
Oh, well.
Then they drink a Foster's and head on their way. Oh, I love Australia.
Australian for bad decisions. Yeah, they don't drink Foster's there. I know they don't drink Foster's there. They couldn't. What beer do Australians drink? Email me. I need to know. But yeah, I should have labeled this a trigger warning because I'm sure our listeners wanted to hear about my father butchering emus. Oh,
you gotta do what
don't
you
watch
do.
The Tiger King.
Yeah, Jerry, stay in here, son. I gotta go out here and get this big old chicken that's in my front yard.
I just remember going outside. What happened to Big Bird?
I think they call chickens yard birds sometimes.
Yeah,
get a little yard bird out here.
I used to have. I like when I Googled Emu War just to make sure that my dates were right. The Wikipedia entry for it was it gives all the information, the start date, and the result is just labeled failure. so apparently the Australians lost the Great Emu War. I didn't realize that they. I don't know. But yeah, you owe it to yourself to watch that on YouTube, and I've got to go. This is enough.
That was amusing.
Oh, I see what you did there.
All right.
If only you had your laugh track.
I'll edit it in later.
All right, stick a feather in it. Okay. Call it macaroni. We're done.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Board Game Snobs. Stay classy.